At Christmas dinner, my father handed the family business to my brothers, saying, "You're no longer part of this family," while cutting me out completely. What he didn't know was I'd quietly bought every debt they signed. The words landed sharper than the silver carving knife my father held in his hand. The entire room seemed to freeze, yet no one looked shocked. Not one. My brothers' faces were too quick to twist into smug smiles, as if they had rehearsed for this exact performance. I kept my eyes steady, watching my father hand over a stack of crisp envelopes across the table. Deeds, shares, signatures, all bound neatly in leather folders. The business that carried our family name, the company I had poured half my life into, handed over like candy canes at a Christmas parade. I didn't argue, didn't reach across the table, didn't beg. I only adjusted the napkin on my lap, folding it once, then twice, careful and precise, the same way I had learned to hold myself during storms. Because while they celebrated, while they laughed at my expense, I carried something none of them could see, something tucked away, waiting for the right time. The dining room smelled of roasted turkey and sage stuffing, a scent that should have meant comfort, but instead turned bitter in my throat. I could taste the metallic tang of betrayal more than the cranberry sauce on my plate. The tree in the corner blinked with lights, red and gold ornaments spinning slowly as the air vent hummed. My mother, long gone from this world, had collected those ornaments. Each one was a memory of her steady hands, her soft laughter, her way of making Christmas mean something. Tonight, her ornaments felt like silent witnesses to the ugliness spilling across the table. One of them, Michael, leaned forward with a grin too wide. "Guess you finally got what you wanted, Dad. A real family business." The other, James, added, "Without the dead weight." Their laughter was quick and shallow, echoing too loudly in the decorated room. I kept my voice even, almost soft. "Well, isn't that something?" Michael's grin faltered for a second, maybe expecting me to fight. James raised his glass, clinking it against Dad's with smugness that made my skin crawl. "Here's to the new future," he said. I raised mine too, though my lips never touched the rim. I only let the wine sit still, catching the glow of the Christmas lights. What they didn't realize was that I had been preparing for this moment for months. As the family's former CFO, I had intimate knowledge of every financial weakness, every cash flow problem, every desperate loan application. When they started hemorrhaging money 18 months ago, betting on risky ventures and poor investments, I had quietly positioned myself as their silent savior. Through a series of shell companies and strategic partnerships, I had systematically purchased their mounting debts from various creditors at significant discounts. My background in corporate finance and mergers had taught me that control doesn't always come from ownership. It comes from leverage. I held master's degrees in both finance and business law, credentials I'd earned while working full-time and raising a family. My 20-year career in corporate restructuring had shown me exactly how families like mine crumble when their financial house of cards finally collapses. I had consulted on dozens of similar cases, watching arrogant heirs lose everything because they never bothered to understand the numbers. Over the past year, I had methodically acquired $2 million in family debts across 7 different lending institutions. The house they sat in, mortgaged to the hilt for their failing ventures. The business loans James had personally guaranteed for his restaurant chain that was bleeding cash monthly. Michael's construction company debts that had ballooned when 3 major projects fell through. Even Dad's personal credit lines and the second mortgage he'd taken on his retirement property. My own financial position was ironclad. My divorce settlement 5 years earlier had netted me $850,000, which I'd invested conservatively in blue-chip stocks and municipal bonds. My consulting firm generated $180,000 annually, and I lived modestly in a paid-off downtown condo. While they leveraged everything for their get-rich-quick schemes, I had been building wealth systematically and sustainably. More importantly, I had the professional network they lacked. My law school roommate, Lisa, now headed the commercial lending division at First National Bank. My former colleague, Marcus, had become a bankruptcy attorney specializing in family business dissolutions. Dr. Helen Foster, my finance professor turned mentor, now consulted on corporate restructuring for Fortune 500 companies. These weren't casual acquaintances. They were strategic relationships built over decades of mutual professional respect. The morning after that Christmas dinner, I began executing my plan with surgical precision. My first call was to Lisa at First National. I need to understand the exact terms of our family's outstanding obligations, I told her over coffee at our usual spot downtown. She pulled up their files on her tablet, shaking her head as she scrolled through the numbers. These guarantees are airtight, she explained. James signed personal liability clauses on $800,000 in restaurant equipment loans. Michael's construction debts include penalty clauses that accelerate if he misses 2 consecutive payments, which he's already done twice this year. Your father's home equity line has a balloon payment due in 6 months that he can't possibly cover based on his current cash flow. Next, I met with Marcus to review the legal implications of my debt acquisitions. You've positioned yourself perfectly, he said, spreading the documents across his conference table. As the new creditor, you have the right to call these loans immediately if you choose. The personal guarantees mean you can pursue their personal assets, not just business collateral. If they can't pay, and they can't, you'll have legal standing to force asset sales or file for involuntary bankruptcy proceedings against them. Dr. Foster helped me understand the broader strategic picture when I visited her consulting office the following week. Family businesses fail because emotion trumps economics, she explained. Your brothers think inheriting control means inheriting success, but they've inherited a sinking ship. The numbers don't lie. Based on their current burn rate and declining revenues, they'll be insolvent within 4 months even without your intervention. You're just controlling the timeline now. My plan involved 3 phases. Phase 1 was documentation, ensuring every debt transfer was legally bulletproof and every guarantee was properly assigned to my holding companies. Phase 2 was strategic patience, allowing them to dig deeper holes while I gathered additional leverage. Phase 3 would be the systematic foreclosure on their financial lives, executed with the precision they'd never bothered to learn. Within 2 weeks, the first consequences began materializing. James called me on a Tuesday morning, his voice tight with frustration. The bank won't extend our credit line, he said. They're claiming some technicality about ownership changes. I knew exactly what he meant. Lisa had informed their lending committee that significant debt portions had been transferred to entities that preferred more conservative lending practices. That's unfortunate, I replied evenly. Have you considered bringing in outside investors? We're trying, he said, but everyone wants to see clean books first. The accountant says we need 3 months to sort through everything. 3 months they didn't have. Michael's situation deteriorated even faster. His construction company had 2 major projects stalled due to unpaid supplier invoices. When those suppliers discovered that his credit lines were now controlled by more aggressive debt holders, they began demanding cash on delivery for all materials. A project that should have taken 8 weeks was stretching into its 5th month, bleeding overhead costs daily. I continued my routine of attending family dinners when invited, watching their stress levels climb with each passing week. Dad had developed a nervous habit of drumming his fingers on the table. James chain-smoked on the back porch between courses. Michael's wife had stopped coming altogether, claiming work obligations, though I suspected the constant arguments had driven her away. By March, their facade was cracking publicly. The local business journal ran a small item about James's restaurant chain closing 2 locations due to restructuring needs. Michael's construction company lost a major municipal contract when they couldn't secure the required bonding insurance. Dad started working part-time at a hardware store, something he claimed was just to stay busy, but everyone knew was about making ends meet. The beauty of my approach was its inevitability. I wasn't destroying them through sabotage or manipulation. I was simply allowing their own financial mistakes to reach their natural conclusion while controlling the timeline. Every loan payment they missed, every credit line they couldn't access, every supplier who demanded cash up front, it all stemmed from decisions they had made years before I acquired their debts. In April, James showed up at my condo unannounced. He looked haggard, his usual cocky demeanor replaced by desperation. "We need help," he said simply. "The restaurants are failing. I can't make payroll next week." I invited him in and made coffee while he explained their situation in detail for the first time. The picture was worse than I had imagined. They owed $340,000 in back taxes. Their insurance had lapsed on 3 properties. 2 key suppliers had filed liens against their assets. The family business that Dad had handed over so proudly was bleeding money from dozens of wounds they didn't know how to treat. "What do you think we should do?" James asked, the question heavy with implications. I set down my coffee cup and looked at him directly. "I think you should have thought about this before Christmas." His face went pale. "What do you mean?" "I mean, I own your debts now, James. All of them. The restaurant loans, the equipment financing, even the personal guarantees you signed. When you and Michael decided I wasn't family anymore, I decided to explore other relationship options with you both." The confrontation I had been planning for months finally arrived in May. I called a family meeting at Dad's house, the same dining room where they had cut me out 5 months earlier. This time, I brought a briefcase full of documents and my attorney Marcus for legal support. "I wanted to update everyone on the family's financial situation," I began, spreading loan documents across the table. "James, your restaurant debts total $1.2 million, all now held by Meridian Holdings, which I own. Michael, your construction company owes $800,000 to Summit Capital Management, also mine. Dad, your personal guarantees on both their loans, plus your own credit obligations, total another $600,000. The silence in the room was deafening. Dad's hands trembled as he reached for his reading glasses to examine the papers. Michael pushed back from the table, his chair scraping loudly against the hardwood floor. James just stared at the documents as if they might disappear if he concentrated hard enough. "This is impossible," Michael said. "You can't just buy debts like that." Marcus leaned forward. "Actually, debt sales are common business transactions. Your sister has acquired your outstanding obligations through legitimate market purchases. As the new creditor, she has the right to enforce the original terms of your agreements." Dad's voice was barely a whisper. "What do you want?" I had been waiting months for that question. "I want what you gave my brothers in December. Control of the family business, full ownership transfer of all assets, complete authority over all financial decisions." "And if we refuse?" James asked, though his voice suggested he already knew the answer. "Then I'll exercise my rights as your primary creditor. Asset seizure, forced liquidation, personal bankruptcy proceedings for each of you. Based on my analysis, you'll lose everything anyway, but it will be messy, public, and take years to resolve." The negotiation took 3 hours. By the end, they had agreed to transfer all business assets to a holding company I controlled in exchange for debt forgiveness and a structured payment plan that would allow them to maintain basic living expenses. James would close his failing restaurants and work as a manager in the restructured family business. Michael would dissolve his construction company and take a project management role under my direction. Dad would retain his house, but transfer all other assets to satisfy his personal guarantees. 6 months after that Christmas dinner, I controlled everything they thought they had inherited. The family business was now profitable under professional management I had installed. James and Michael received modest salaries for their operational roles, but all strategic decisions flowed through me. Dad lived quietly in his house, which I allowed him to keep as long as he followed the terms of our agreement. The irony wasn't lost on me. They had spent years dismissing my financial expertise as just numbers, while building their entire empire on those same numbers they couldn't understand. Their arrogance had cost them everything, while my patience and professional competence had won me complete control over the family legacy they thought they deserved. I learned that revenge, when executed properly, isn't about emotion or spite. It's about understanding systems, recognizing leverage, and having the discipline to wait for the right moment. They gave me the motivation that Christmas night when they declared I wasn't family anymore. I gave them a master class in exactly why family businesses need people who understand both the blood and the money.